Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Productions channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another Album of the Week video. This is episode number 196. Today I will be breaking away from the usual norm of this episodic series to focus on an album from a band who I've recently been getting into after many years of forgetting to invest in. That is the French death thrash metal band Agressor, and the album I will be talking about is their second album, Towards Beyond, the follow-up to 1990's debut album Neverending Destiny. Now, I had just recently got the Arrival 2-disc set that Seasons of Mist Records had put out in 2021, which contains both albums remastered. So, Towards Beyond, which I should mention here, marked their debut on Black Mark Productions, owned by the late father of the late Quorthon Bathory, who is, his real name, of course, was Veli Forspari. I think that is how you pronounce it, at least that is technically even though it's Finnish, but he is from Sweden, so I don't know if that's actually how you were to pronounce his name, but I think for the English way of pronouncing that name was Bore Forsberg. However, for this video here, since I don't want to keep repeating saying his real name because of, again, I'm not quite sure if any of those two are the correct ways to pronounce his name, so to make things more easier on me, I'm just going to refer to him by his producer name, that is The Boss. But for this video, I will just be going, well, Boss for short. So there we go. Alright, now getting back to things. This was, of course, after being let go from Noise Records. So since there is quite a bit to be covered here, let's just begin. Based out of, oh boy, you know what? I first attempted to try and pronounce the place that they're from. However, it is not very easy for me to even remember how to correctly pronounce this. And even when I was trying to, through like the Google Translate to try and put the city and town's name, whatever, that they're based out of, in France. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try, and it was already kind of difficult for me to even kind of remember and pay attention because of it's a mouthful, and I just don't have enough time for this. So if anything, it's probably going to be typed into the video, and that's about it, because I'm not going to attempt. I'm not going to attempt. Otherwise, I'm just going to come across looking like an ass, because French is not my first speaking language. So there you go. Now, Agressor was formed by Alex Colin Toquain. Hopefully that is the preferred way to pronounce his name. And of course, in 1986. The original lineup consisted of Alex on guitar and vocals, Jean-Luc Falsini, who went by the name of Destroy, on drums, and J.M. Lebier, who went by the name of Mono, or Mono, whatever, on bass. This lineup lasted until 1988 after finishing up recording the Satan Sodomy half, part that was part of the License to Thrash split record with native friends Loud Blast. Sadly, Jean-Luc Falsini passed away on July 28th to cancer. Yeah, it's always kind of sucks when you see that. Again, that's how long that these guys at least had lasted in the band. Now, after the collapse of the initial lineup, Alex got two more guys, Laurent Lorette, I hope I'm pronouncing all this correctly, on bass, and Theory Pink, whatever, on drums. During this time, Alex began doing business with the Boss, who would eventually get Aggressor to be a part of a split deal with Noise Records for their debut 1990 album, Neverending Destiny. The band would head to Skytrack Studio in Berlin, Germany to record the album, to which the Boss would produce, and with Rex Gislen mixing it. But during the recording of Neverending Destiny, problems arose. Drummer Theory Pink would often screw up to where he would have to perform multiple takes. This became frustrating for Alex. Eventually they got through it. Now, while Alex was happy that the album was released, however, he was disappointed with the end result, stating that he was not present in the album's mixing process. After this, getting more and more frustrated with his current lineup with the incarnation of Aggressor, Lauren Lorette was also known for having anger issues, and since the two band members were not at all into the same kind of extreme music that Alex was pretty much into at this time period, he would fire them, which the Boss and Noise Records were not very thrilled with this, since there was no, at this point now, there was no band to help further promote the album, as far as, playing live shows and so on. Noise Records pretty much kicked Aggressor to the curb, and Alex was on to finding new members. While it is noted that Neverending Destiny sold at least about 10,000 copies, accordingly, to, of course, the booklet and everything inside the Arrival set, Alex tried his very part to do, and such, as to do as much interviews while attending college at the same time. Of course, during all of this, he was still plotting his next move onto continuing with Aggressor. In late 1990, Patrick Gibelin of the thrash band Outburst came into the fold, but also bringing along Joel Gagu, goddamn, I'm butchering all this shit, with him as well, again from Outburst. Now, prior to those two, and of course the previous lineup, Alex originally had called up Death Power drummer Stefan Gugelin. Goddamn, I'm butchering all their names because again, whatever. You probably already understand why, because I've explained it at the beginning. Who actually did record a rehearsal demo with Aggressor in 1988, which contained early versions of the songs that were on the debut, which these tracks were made as bonus tracks as part of the Neverending Destiny remaster. But eventually, Stefan, or I hope that's, again, now you pronouncing his Dave, because again, there's a little umlaut, whatever, over the E here. Again, he eventually would go back to Death Power after recording those rehearsal tracks, in 1988. But when looking for a drummer to record of what was to become Towards Beyond, he was thinking of Stefan again after being so impressed with his drumming in Death Power to the point to where he considers Stefan as the most talented musician he has ever played with. At this point, during this time, Stefan ended up agreeing to rejoin and thus putting Aggressor back in action. They began performing shows to continue, promoting the debut album, and of course, these shows were becoming very, very successful. After the deal with Noise falling apart, the Boss decided that he would just release Towards Beyond through Black Mark Productions, and even, I think, releasing the follow-up album as well. So basically putting Aggressor into a more solid state contract, record deal, and everything. So in March of 1992, the band and the Boss went up to Montezuma Studio in Stockholm, Sweden to record. And then, of course, sometime in 1992, because it's not really specified what day or at least what month and the year of 1992 Towards Beyond was released in, but eventually it was unleashed. So here we go. Here we go, folks, after plenty of to go through, the history and stuff to kind of get you up to pace because you're probably not that quite familiar with Aggressor. So I kind of had to kind of lead you a little bit, as much as I could, a brief rundown of the history of Aggressor. So now we are at the album. So here we go. Towards Beyond consists a total of 8 tracks, 1 intro and 1 instrumental, basically making it 10 tracks. However, on the Arrival remaster, again, the one that Season of Mist did, they kind of split one of the 2 songs up, which were, of course, Future Past and Eldest Things, whereas on the original Black Mark Productions versions of the album, they were made into 1 song. So technically there's at least 11 tracks that are on this copy, and at least as part of the original album. But on the original Black Mark Productions versions, pressings, it's 10 tracks. But with that, it clocks in at the length of 36 minutes and 21 seconds. And of course, these 10 tracks are, beginning with intro, which is clocks in at least very much under a minute. Primeval's Transubstantiation, The Fortress, Posatomic Showering, Antediluvian, Epileptic Aurora, Hyaloid, The Crypt, Future Past, Eldest Things, and then Turkish March. So there you go. There's your 10 tracks or 11 tracks, depending. So here we go. Here, I guess, is the thoughts portion of this episode. My thoughts? Well, the album here, of course, continues the same blistering assault that Neverending Destiny was, with its same Morbid Angel meets Sodom approach to death thrash metal, but it's twice as lethal. Thanks to the new and improved lineup, the music featured here are just much more refined. The performances here are tighter, coming off across as more technical than compared to its predecessor. I mean, just take a good listen to songs like The Fortress, Positonic Showering, The Crypt, which is an updated version of Black Church off the demo days, and of course the License to Thrash split with Loud Blast and Antediluvian. The songs are just built around aggressive riffs and multiple time changes. This album does experiment a little, not as much as the later albums again supposedly are or gets. I mean, just take a listen to Future Past, which is the first half of Eldest Things, is a very cool, almost Celtic folky-like piece again, and it's real nicely done. And it's just crazy that, of course, that this leads into Eldest Things, and this, of course, serves as the album's sole epic. A bit on the sore side of things, but it just is menacing. What a great track. Then there is Turkish March, a short neoclassical metal piece that is no longer than 2 minutes and 2 seconds, so pretty much a tiny bit over 2 minutes, but barely, folks. It's an interesting instrumental that doesn't overstay its welcome, and it nicely ends the album. Now, while I do like Neverending Destiny, I think that is still a really good album. I would almost put it right now, up there as one of my favorite albums from Aggressor, because again, I'm not yet too familiar with everything else afterwards, because I have yet to make my way to some of the albums afterwards. That also includes the follow-up here to Towards Beyond, but so far, these 2 albums are just great. But I have to agree that this is probably one of Aggressor's finest albums. It has the guttural aggression of bands like Morbid Angel, Malevolent Creation, and Pestilence, but is combined with the lethal thrash metal assault of bands like Sodom, Protector, Crater, and Death Row. And yes, I know Protector kind of stride that line between death metal and thrash metal in a way, since of course they did the A Shedding of Skin album, which was pretty much Protector's most death metal album. I think even the album afterwards, I forgot the name of it, but they kind of always kind of bordered a little bit on the death metal edge to an extent. And of course, Sodom had Tapping the Vein, which was also them kind of breaching into the death metal side of things. But still, Aggressor here are just, they really are just a great band here that are just, they just create a unique brand of death thrash. That's what I'm trying to getting at here as well. Again, just with Alex's vocals being the most death metal thing about Aggressor on these first two albums. Again, I'm not quite familiar with a lot of the later albums, but I think even since the remasters that Season of Mist did that are included as part of the Arrival set, each of these discs include re-recordings of at least 2 songs each off these 2 albums, and he really has really retained a lot of those death metal elements, but again, you can hear the thrashiness in them. It's just, oh, it's so good. I just need to invest more into Aggressor. What a great fucking band. Of course, now let's definitely get into the stuff that happened after Towards Beyond. After this, Patrick Gilbelin would leave the band and would soon be replaced by Manu Rago, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for the recording of the band's 3rd album, Symposium of Rebirth. Again, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. So that's it. It's a great album. If you're one of those who has listened to this album and this band, you can post your thoughts in the comments section below. But if you've never ever heard of Aggressor, it's not that difficult to track down a copy of The Arrival. If you have a record player, Season of Mist did do vinyl reissues as well back in 2021. There it is. This is Heavy Thrash saying I am out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.